Hey everyone! Before we begin today, we want to thank our newest patron, Hannah. Welcome to the team. If you want to support us too, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice. Or another way to show your support is to buy our merch. We have a ton of cute designs over at podandprejudice.dashery.com. That is a new website. So it was formerly tpublic.com/podandprejudice is now podandprejudice.dashery.com. And that link is in the show notes. So you should definitely go check it out. And now, please enjoy our second episode covering the 1995 adaptation of Persuasion with our guests, the hosts of Fetch the Smelling Salts, Alice and Kim.
This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We are here to talk about Jane Austen.
We are here specifically to talk about Persuasion.
Adaptations. Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels and watched many adaptations over the course of my life.
And I, Molly, am doing all of that for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, or Emma for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, and 3 of this podcast respectively, but that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we are talking about Persuasion 1995. We are talking about part 2 of Persuasion 1995, and we are joined today again by Alice and Kim from Fetch the Smelling Salts. Hello, welcome back.
Hi.
Hello.
So if you guys want to hear more about Alice and Kim's work through the podcasting space, particularly the period piece, watching, consuming, and adoring podcasting space, you should go listen to part 1 of this series we're doing on the 1995 Persuasion. You should generally listen to that episode before you listen to this one anyway, because we're halfway through a movie, or rather a third of the way through the movie because we're having too much fun. So let's just jump right back in and pick up where we left off.
Back to the head.
Back to the head. Yes, so we are on Captain Wentworth's head in the window of Uppercross, while little Charles lies miserable in bed with his equally miserable but much healthier aunt.
Yes, exactly. So the next morning after we've seen the back of Wentworth's head, Anne and Mary are at breakfast when who should arrive but Captain Wentworth.
Charles is a jump scare in this scene when he's like, "We came for the dogs.
We've come for the dogs." And he seems so like stressed about it, but like in an excited way. Like he's like, "Oh, and Wentworth is coming behind. Can he come say hello?" And Mary is like, "Oh, yes, yes, of course."
This scene perfectly captures the horror of being caught off guard by seeing like an ex-lover.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, like here she is, just having breakfast and she's like la 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 la.
Breakfast.
I know.
Oh my God. Yeah.
She hasn't brushed her teeth yet.
Mm-hmm.
Are they brushing teeth in the Jane
I
Austen era?
don't know.
She hasn't chewed her stick yet this morning. She's over her breakfast ham and she's got Wentworth coming. This is a hate crime.
Especially because, like, in her brain, like, oh, thank God I avoided it last night. I can relax for
Yeah.
a minute. He's not coming here. And then it's like, spoiler alert, you have 30 seconds to prepare to see the love of your life.
And we get what, in my opinion, is equivalent to the hand flex in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
Mhm.
Because he comes in and Anne stands up and slowly grips the side of the chair.
Grips.
And like finger by finger we see it happening, white knuckled. And it is full of so much tension. I just needed it to have its own moment.
I feel like we need to take a moment here to discuss Captain Wentworth's reveal and Kieran Hines as Captain Wentworth generally.
Yeah.
Which Kieran Hines, I think, is probably the most famous actor in this movie. When I didn't know much about this movie, I knew Kieran Hines was in this movie. He's, been in 1,000 different things. I have never seen Kieran Hines play a love interest before. I mean, he does a great job, but it is like, I think of him as sort of a macho action guy, maybe a villain. I mean, he's played like very serious characters in very like grim settings, but like watching him as a lover, like a heartbroken lover, was a very interesting experience.
I know him almost 100% from this movie. So I've never really experienced him as anything else.
I mean, if you've ever seen like the last Harry Potter movie, he plays Aberforth Dumbledore.
Oh really?
Is that him?
That is him.
That's very funny.
Yeah. So he's like known best for like a lot of like spy movies and war movies, and it makes sense. He's strapping and he's manly, and it
Mm.
makes sense if you're gonna cast Kieran Hines as an ingenue. You're gonna cast him as like an army man ingenue because he's in the Navy. Well, not an army man, a military man
Mhm.
ingenue because he's in the Navy. He's like kind of got that like broad chested,
Mm.
Yeah.
like He-Man sort of vibe to him. And it does add something to the movie to have Captain Wentworth. He's not like candidly, he is not how I pictured Wentworth when I read the book. I pictured Wentworth to be a bit more whimsical and poetic and like sturdy, but also kind of like
But how does the guy look whimsical? What do you mean?
I guess like like lighter. Like K- Kieran Hines is such a stern presence.
Yeah.
Not like it's not necessarily a looks thing. It's like an energy thing.
Right.
But I liked having Kieran Hines in the role because for me it captures like why before he had so much wealth, he would have been seen in a different light by her family because he's kind of got this like rough and tumble, like gruff manner to him. He looks like more natural in an army uniform than he does in like a suit, the way that
Mm.
Charles is wearing his suit or Sir Walter is wearing a suit.
Mm.
Or like if you want a direct comparison, Mr. Elliot later in the movie is wearing like a suit and a top hat. That doesn't work for him. He has to be in this like this naval uniform because that seems to me the only polished look that would look right on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it to be a really interesting like exploration of how casting can like create story around a
Mm.
character. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, he's like I see him in like spy and war movies usually. So like it's weird to see him like gently loving Anne Elliot from afar and like tears streaming down his cheek, but it gives the idea of him as this like man of action who is like stifled from action
Mm.
in this
Mm-hmm.
moment. I find it to be a really interesting and fun take on Captain Wentworth.
He is absolutely the benchmark for me because I saw this before I read the book.
Mm.
And in the other Persuasion adaptations that I don't quite like as much, a lot of it has to do with the Wentworth. Nobody can Wentworth as hard as Kieran Hines Wentworth's. 'Cause they don't look right. They don't act right. They don't have um it's like a gruff je ne sais quoi, like he's a merman, but he's also really hairy. And he looks older than he is. He's gentle, but doesn't look like he has the capability of being gentle. These are all things that I've not seen another actor pull
Mhm.
off. And, spoiler alert, in 2007 they make him blonde and
The romance ladies feel a lot of ways about blonde men in ingenue
oh, is
roles.
it? Well, a
Yeah.
blonde Wentworth, I cannot get behind.
Interesting. I'm
Mm.
fascinated to see the other adaptations of Wentworth because, like, again, I had a different impression of him as a character, but I like this like as an adaptation of him, and I like it as an exploration of him. It is very specific, though. Like, if
Mhm.
I could see how if this was your first interaction with the story of Persuasion, this would be the one that like cements in your brain as like this is Wentworth and nothing else is Wentworth.
His performance for me was excellent. I'm not personally attracted to him.
Because everybody's ugly in this movie.
Yeah,
No, we've made it clear that
they're all
Molly
beautiful.
loves the
I
daddies.
do. I think
Oh, it's
and I
true.
don't wanna be mean to Kieran
He's not
Hines.
daddy enough for you.
He's well, he is kinda daddy. He's not unattractive. I don't wanna be mean. He doesn't have any neck. He's just all head.
Just block.
Like, it's just yeah, which works for his, like, ah, kind of vibe.
I think it's like there's like it's almost as if there is a tidied up brutishness to him
Mhm.
that
No, I think
Which it
this is what it
works.
is. This is what makes him comparatively so attractive in the film is because he doesn't look as British as the other men.
yeah.
He
Mm.
has a distinctively un-British face. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the whole nation of Great Britain in which I live and which I love very much. But I am speaking not about the population at large, although I really am. But in films, you get a certain type of actors of of that time period, like in the 80s and in the 90s. And he breaks that mold almost because he has more tenacious dark facial hair than
Mm-hmm.
anything else, and chin. He's
I
all
mean,
chin.
like, yeah, I mean, there's just like an incredibly blunt masculinity to him and
Yeah,
his presentation that does translate very differently than all the other actors in this film and a lot of the other Jane Austen heroes that we have come across. Like, he's no Johnny Lee Miller.
right.
He's no Colin Firth, these kind of like prim and proper men in
Pretty
suits
boys.
with tail. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call Johnny Lee Miller a pretty boy. He's
He's so
so handsome in
pretty.
his.
Wait, which one is he?
He plays Knightley
Knightley.
in 2008. He also plays a different ingenue in a different Jane Austen
Yeah, yeah,
adaptation we'll get to
which we
later.
won't speak about.
We won't disclose.
I could see Matthew McFadden as Wentworth though.
Yes, that is exactly right. That's like who kind of like was stirring in my brain here because Matthew McFadden has like a dreamers. It's hard to explain, but like you could not see Kieran Hines walking through the mist towards the love of his life, if that makes
What
sense.
about the sea fog? Could he row toward you?
Oh, he could totally road through the sea frog.
Oh, he
Yes,
could row toward you, you slut. He could.
exactly.
So let's just get back to the movie.
No, I feel like this was an important
No,
conversation to have
absolutely.
because I think this is a Wentworth that I think most people adore, and I can see why, but it is not precisely how I pictured Wentworth. I do, however, very much enjoy his performance of Wentworth and
Yes.
what his energy brings to the story.
Yes, and I will say also, like when I said I wasn't attracted to him, I mean, like for me personally, like I don't actually think that he needs to be conventionally attractive. I think he's weather beaten and he's like manly and like yeah, I don't actually mind any of it. I think that he was really good. And when he smiles, his whole face lights up in a really dreamy
Mm.
way. So, okay, those moments did really get me. Um okay, so back to the movie. When he leaves the room, we get this zoom in on Anne's face that's very reminiscent of all five out at once in the 1995 Pride and Prejudice. You know what I'm talking about? The like,
This moment lives in our, it's like tattooed in our brains where you meet Lady Catherine de Bourgh for the first time in Pride and Prejudice, and Elizabeth proclaims that all five of herself and her four sisters are out at once, and Lady Catherine turns to her and goes, "All five out at once," and then there's like a Stanley Kubrick like zoom in, like it's a horror movie, and very similar camera work here to capture Anne's face after Wentworth leaves.
when Mary comes back from hunting with the boys, she tells Anne that Wentworth said she was so altered he didn't recognize her, which is very out of the blue and very rude of Mary. And then we cut straight to a shot of Anne looking at herself in the mirror and being like, "Am I so altered that you can't recognize me?"
I know.
And it was really sad. We get a lot of Anne looking at herself in the mirror in this movie, which I'm excited to get to the later moment of that, which is
Yeah.
her acknowledging that she's hot.
Ugh, yes. But I think in this moment, like this is a great moment of like showing and not telling, like we were talking about, instead of her talking about feeling like she's gotten older and he's matured like fine wine. You see her kind of like just gently touch her face and like see the bags under her eyes, and it feels exactly, you can feel exactly as it is written in the book what is happening in that moment. Very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Not Wentworth's best moment.
No. But you also have to wonder how much did he actually say that and how much is Mary
Interpreting.
Exactly.
yeah, like is she exaggerating this? Did she say, "Do you recognize my sister Anne," or is she too altered for you to see? Like we don't know. Um at dinner, Wentworth is talking about being at sea and Admiral Croft says, "When a man has no wife, he wants to be afloat." And Wentworth says, "Yes, well, I had no wife in the year 6."
Mm.
And then his gaze like darts to Anne. It is such a good line delivery, and it is one of my favorites.
I love that one. I love that was on my line read list, but I love this whole scene, and it's part of the reason I love this movie is because all of it feels really natural. I don't know how much they ad lib, but I love the way their dialogue is kind of imperfect and they talk over each other sometimes, especially at dinner, and it looks quite haphazard. It doesn't look like the scenes we've seen in some of the adaptations where everything is always very just so and laid out, and people deliver their lines in a very precise way and they respond in a very precise way as though you're reading through dialogue. And it seems unnatural. And I think we accept it because we think, oh, well, everyone was just so much better at talking good then. And everyone was so clean and tidy then, instead of like a table like full of shit all over it. And everybody's a little bit drunk and they're kind of joking back and forth and talking over each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think like for better or for worse, this movie resists stylization as a style. Like it is looking to give you that down to earth feeling like you're actually in the moment with the characters. And I totally agree with you that like that naturalness really comes through in these dinner scenes where they're really like it feels like being at a dinner party with these people. And Wentworth feels like a guy you would have a dinner party with, where he's kind of like casually telling his war stories, like not looking like he's trying to impress anyone, but clearly trying to impress everyone. And like that casual delivery, that sternness that comes with it. It's very how I would like see a man like try to impress women at a dinner party at any given point.
To your point of how, this movie seems to avoid any like stylization, I wonder whether because of that, you know, there was maybe a choice to not have so much score. Because like
Mm.
not having the score gives that feel, to me.
Exactly. That's
Mm.
precisely like what I mean is like the going like shot for shot, like very like big frame or very big close up on somebody's face, going into like these like intimate dinner scenes where you're kind of like the camera's like kind of part of the dinner. The polar opposite of this to me would be something like Emma 2020,
Mhm.
which is so
Mm.
precisely stylized. It has a very specific vision of how it wants to tell the story. And it is saying, we're not telling this story as if you're in the room with these people. This is like a piece, like this, you're walking through an experience
Mhm.
here and not like something that's actually happened to people. And I think that that is like the precise opposite of this one, where it really wants you to feel like you're on the ground with these people, like on purpose.
Even the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, it's not exactly what you're describing with Emma, but it is a full mood board. Like, there is a
Totally.
color palette, the score is everything, and so that is what is supposed to be so emotive and what you're supposed to take away from it.
I think that's totally correct. And Austen fans are free to prefer this sort of like up close and intimate experience with like authentic immersion in like a Regency era style, or they're welcome to prefer the more like cinematic, sweeping, like mood board of a 2005 Pride and Prejudice. And one of the magical things about Jane Austen content is that they make so much of it that like a lot of people bring different vision to it, and that we all get to like experience the stories in a lot of different ways.
This is what we love about period dramas in general. We love all kinds of period dramas, and we really love historical accuracy, and we talk about this on a lot of our episodes, but we love the choices that filmmakers make when they decide to do something that's more stylistic, something that's more aesthetic. They throw modern shit in. It's all about the choices you make to present the art that you're presenting. And where was I going with that? Um
That's what makes period pieces so fun.
yeah, that's why there really is something for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love it all. Like, they're just different. It's like basically what you just said, that it's fun either way because it's all about the story and the story getting through in whatever way the director and artists want it to. So, at this dinner conversation, Wentworth is saying that boats are not a comfortable place for women, and when they're like, "Oh, well, you'll see it differently when you're married," he literally gets up and leaves the room. He's like,
Mm.
"I will not."
Drama.
Doesn't he just go to pee though?
He goes to the piano.
I think that no, I think that's later when they've all like retired to the other room.
Sure.
I
Mm.
think that's just his very dramatic way of going to have a piss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But he doesn't say it. He's like, "All right, see you later." And they all just like go, "Okay, let's continue the conversation." He probably is going to pee. But after he leaves, Mrs. Croft starts talking about her time at sea, and she talks about one of my favorite moments is her talking about the winter she was away from Admiral Croft, and they look at each other and they're just so in love,
That's
and
so sweet. I
I
know.
love it. She's like, "This is the only time I was ever really afraid for myself is when I was away from him, but as long as we're together, everything is great." I'm like, "Oh, I love you, Fiona Shaw
Ugh.
and Daddy Croft."
Every moment Daddy and Mrs. Croft are on the screen together is just like a bucket of warmth.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Then we jump to after dinner while he's at the piano, and she comes over and he's like, "Oh, sorry, this is your seat." And she's like, "No, no, no, it's fine." And then he runs away. And so she's like, "Okay, I'll get back to the piano." And she plays and everyone dances, and a man on a horse arrives.
I was watching this with Molly, and her immediate reaction was, "Who is that? He's hot."
Yeah, I did say that. I did. I did. And the more I looked at him, the less attracted to him I was. I have to say, like, he's adorable though, and it's of course Henry Hayter, who we did change a couple names in this movie, one of which being Henry Hayter because there were too many Charleses, which is fine. I just think it's funny that we ended up with Henry and Henrietta.
That's so true.
Like that's better than 6 Charleses, I guess.
That's like the screenwriter was like, "We gotta change this. I'll think of something. Just make it Henry right now so I remember he's connected to Henrietta," and then it
Henrietta.
never got rewritten.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just forgot, and then it happened. They called him Henry in the movie, and he was like, "Fuck." So he walks in while Henrietta is dancing with Wentworth and being twirled by him, and he storms off angrily, and it's very uncomfortable. And Henrietta is just kind of like, "Oops." The next morning, Anne sits with Charles and Mary at breakfast, and they're discussing which sister will marry Wentworth. And they turn to Anne and they ask her opinion, and she just says nothing.
This is something I related to, as being part of my family, and I don't think anyone in my family will listen to this, but just like, you're present, and that's really enough, and you don't have to speak or do anything because people just wanna hear themselves talk.
They actually didn't need her to contribute to that conversation.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Later, Anne is walking, and this scene changes everything for me. Anne is walking and she overhears a conversation between Henrietta and Louisa, and it's like in hushed tones. I had to turn on the subtitles so that I could understand what they were saying. But Henrietta is saying, "He likes me." And Louisa is saying, "You're spoken for already. Mama and Papa approve of Henry Hayter. Arrangements have already been made. Come to your senses." And this is a scene that's not in the book and changes for me how I view Henrietta as a character because she's saying, like, "No, Wentworth likes me, back off." And Louisa's saying, "You have a boyfriend and you're getting married already. Like, you're going to marry this man. Calm down and let me have him."
Yeah, save some for the rest of us.
Yeah.
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 I'm so into the Navy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even Navy?
Yeah. Do you even Navy girl? But like later on, or like in the next scene, when they're walking and Louisa's like dragging Henrietta to go talk to Henry Hayter,
The hater.
the hater. In the book, I thought it was like, oh, it's so sweet. Like she's embarrassed that he saw her dancing with Wentworth and she's gonna go like reconcile with him and they're in love. But it's actually Louisa being like, come to your senses and like go back to the man that you've already kind of promised yourself to, and she's feeling grumpy about it, which just like changes the whole vibe for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, I think the undercurrent of the Henrietta and Hater story, I'm just going to call him Hater because Henrietta and Henry is
Sure.
not going to work for me.
No.
Um, in the book, it's like meant to sort of mimic the Wentworth Anne story in a very different familial circumstance with a lot less pride. And you can feel the ambivalence rolling off of Henrietta in the book being attached to being unsure Charles/Henry Hayter is a good match. And Wentworth is so obviously a better match that it's making her feel self-conscious about her choices in a way that Anne was made to feel self-conscious about her choices. And I do feel like that gets a little lost in translation here because now it just really translates like she got swept up by a hot guy, which is part of it. We've all been teenage girls. It happens. Especially like if a man is showing you a lot of attention, you know. But like it translates more as Louisa being like, stop caring what other people think. You do care about this man and like go be with him rather than, hey, I like this guy too, and you're already spoken for. So go live with your choices. Like, I feel like it does kind of do a little character assassination on Henrietta, but it also like loses that it loses that analog to Anna Wentworth a little bit.
Yeah, and it also more so for me, it is also a character assassination on Louisa.
Yes.
It makes her seem more selfish and a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It just like it gives her a different vibe.
I read that vibe into Louisa the first time round, I won't lie.
And she's like, I'm gonna sink my talents into him and
Exactly.
never let go.
And like she's very good at jumping off of things until she isn't.
Yeah. And I also wonder if maybe part of why I was surprised by the vibes is because I recognized the Henrietta actress as Mrs. Forrester, who's like more of a Lydia Bennet type. And I
Yeah.
feel like I was reading that into her because of the casting, which is not fair to the character or the actor.
Mhm.
And I understand that. But I was like kind of also vibing like, I want him. He's mine. Into Henrietta in this movie because of that. And then Louisa kind of being similar. But they're both such sweet characters that that's not really fair to them. But that's what the scene kind of does.
Yeah, we don't get a big sense of their characters in the film. They are meant to be jolly and sweet and kind of puppyish and just moving and talking and laughing all the time, and those are meant to be really good qualities, and they really care for Anne. But at the same time, it does seem like the depth of character we get from them isn't flattering.
Exactly.
We get down to who they are. They are just kind of malleable, fickle teenage girls.
Yeah.
So then we get a cut to Henrietta and Louisa going for a walk and Mary being like, I want to come. And they're like,
Another perfect line delivery from her when she like leans out the side of her cottage.
yeah.
And I forget exactly what she says. Like, I'm gonna not be able to quote it verbatim, but she's like, are you gonna come inside or is my cottage not grand enough for you?
That's a little earlier, and it is on my list of best line readings.
But are you talking about where she's like, why is everyone always assuming I am not a good walker?
That was
it's
in this
so
moment.
good.
So good.
And she's like, where are you going? And I did like the implication that the walk was happening in the first place because they were gonna go see the
Oh,
haters.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think that's also implied in the book. And they're like, oh, no, it's a very long walk.
Oh, I thought they were just trying to get rid of Mary when they said it's a very long walk.
Well, they were, but I think that the walk always was happening because they were going to see Charles Hayter because Henry had Hayter the Hater because they end up there. But yes, it is more obvious here because of the conversation immediately preceding it.
Yeah.
And I really relate to Anne when Mary's like, no, I'm coming too. Anne was like, but Mary, we have to finish our puzzle. And she's like, she's not listening to me.
To be fair, the puzzle had like 3 more giant pieces left to it. It's like, it's
Also,
fine.
that puzzle, I know that like puzzles haven't always been the way puzzles are now, but it was all square pieces.
Yeah.
That's complicated. Like you have to look exclusively at the picture. We don't need to get into the details of puzzling in the 1800s. But so they go on the walk and they bump into Charles Musgrove and Wentworth, which is the most inconvenient people to bump into when you're trying to get your sister. This is for Louisa, when you're trying to get your sister to stop liking this man. But
Yeah, the guy he likes and your brother.
yeah. So they walk with them and they come to a stile in the road, and Wentworth helps Louisa jump over and she jumps down and he catches her. Foreshadow, foreshadow, foreshadow. While Anne grumpily watches this happen and then climbs over after. Poor girl. And I wanted to note here that we've already talked about Wentworth's casting a lot, but him next to Louisa versus him next to Anne, he looks so old comparatively.
Next to Louisa. Yeah.
Louisa,
Ooh,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks so wrong.
Yeah.
Like Not to say, like, listen, age gap relationships can be very happy, but there is something like her energy is deeply youthful in this,
Mm-hmm.
and his energy is very, like, aggressively stern past
Weathered.
his years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, Amanda Root is giving a similar stern past her years performance here. So they feel much more natural,
Yeah.
like very, very obviously. And I think it does capture something that does exist in the book where Wentworth and Louisa feel wrong as a
No,
match.
when they go to glean some nuts from the hedgerow, he is serving hello fellow kids.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, and that scene, I wanna give a couple shouts. One, Mary sitting on that log and being like, "Ah, it's terrible to have such relations. I've only been there twice." Just our queen of no self-awareness, but, like, her sitting and, like, griping, like, and babbling to basically no one because Anne's not listening is so funny. Like, Sophie Thompson's just pulling out all the stops to make this woman so annoying and so iconically, cringe that I love it.
And then she like makes Anne like swap places with her because what, the sun or something, and I'm just like, what are you
She was like,
doing?
if you've had your rest, I'll do better on your side of the log. And Anne's like,
like
"Ugh."
that part of the log is like more dry and comfortable, and she's like, "Get your literal ass wet, not me."
Yep.
Ridiculous. I love her.
I do wanna give shouts to our friends who were mourning the loss of the scene where Wentworth is like, "There are some walnuts that stay in their shells and are hard to
Hazelnuts.
crack." Hazelnuts, not walnuts, that are hard to crack, and some get trodden on the forest floor like nothing matters. Like, you wanna be like the strong hazelnut, and Louise is like, "I'm a strong hazelnut."
We don't get the nut metaphor. They don't even glean some nuts. They don't even look at nuts. They just say, let's glean some nuts. And
They
then,
do glean nuts. She's popping nuts in her mouth as she's
oh, is
saying
she?
like, "I am not so easily persuaded." Gobble gobble gobble.
Oh, okay. Fair, fair, fair,
I
fair.
think she has nuts in her mouth when she says, "We all wanted her to marry Anne."
You're so right. You're so right. All right. So they do glean
Just
some nuts.
I'm
Well,
misgendering Charles there, but whatever.
well, we did all want, and we want all of the characters to be gay.
And women.
Yes.
I think this is Jane Austen's straightest book I have read, though, I will say.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's no
There's no really gay characters in it.
Anne is so palpably straight for Wentworth. It's like almost suffocating.
Yeah. There's no homoeroticism or anything even.
Yeah, yeah. It lacks the je ne sais quoi of Emma clearly having queer feelings for all of her girly friends and
Yeah.
enemies. And it lacks the confusion that is the relationship between Charlotte and Lizzie in Pride and Prejudice. It lacks the girl competition that can be read a different way of Eleanor and Lucy Steele. So like there's lots of moments in the other books where I read something really interesting into these like relationships, but with this one it's just like really straightforwardly like they really want each other like and not anybody else.
and even when Anne goes to visit her friend, Austen is like making a point. She's like, "No, no, no, that friend is sick. They don't want to fuck each other."
Mm-hmm.
These friends enjoy each other's company, but this is a platonic endeavor. There is no energy between those two.
And also Mrs. Smith is very like, well, in the book, very in love with her dead husband. So there's no even hope of anything happening for that. But in the movie, I will say that there was a little energy between Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Brooke.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. But overall, very, very straight book. I will say for the nuts conversation and the gleaning of the nuts, this is where Anne overhears Louisa telling Captain Wentworth that they should have all infinitely preferred if Anne had accepted Charles's proposal, and him being like, "Oh, when did that happen?" And she was like, "Oh, like about a year before he married Mary." We all think that that Lady Russell persuaded her away from him. And I, in seeing it in film, have to say that I can't believe I ever read this conversation and thought that Captain Wentworth thought that Anne was like an easily persuaded person who was persuaded away from other people easily versus him being like, she turned down another man.
Mm.
Because that's all I could hear this time. It's like him being like, wait, she did what now? Okay.
So the lovers reconcile.
The lovers reconcile. Henrietta has found Hader, brings him back up. He and Wentworth shake hands, and Henrietta looks honestly quite relieved that they are not mad at each other about her. On their walk back, they run into the Crofts in their carriage, and Wentworth goes up to the Crofts and is like, take Anne with you. She's very tired. And Anne is like, no, no, I'm fine. And then he comes and he puts his hand on the small of her back
Oh, yes.
and helps her up into the carriage and gives it almost like a little squeeze on her back as he helps her up.
He like grabs her waist and kind of like hoists her. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a strong hand and a strong man. And there is a lot of tension in this moment. Woo!
Just sit with it.
Yes.
We'll just take a moment for the back touch.
I know. That was beautiful.
I feel like there is a back touch or a hand touch in every Austen adaptation as the lover helps the other lover into a carriage that just like knocks the wind out of you because they haven't touched yet. So that was a really good one. Then the entire ride home, the Crofts are talking about how Wentworth would fall in love with anyone right now because they're like, oh yeah, anyone flatters the Navy.
15 to 30 or something, yeah.
Yeah. And Anne is just like completely like staring off into the distance, like, oh my God, he touched my back. Wentworth then gets a letter from Captain Harville, and they all make a plan to go to Lyme to visit him. And when they tell Mary, we're going to Lyme, she says, I do not like the sea. It is are you guys Star Wars people?
Yeah.
It's I don't like sand.
It's coarse, it's rough, it's irritating.
It gets everywhere.
It gets everywhere.
Iconic moment from Mary. So we go to Lyme and we go to Harville's house and we learn of Bennick and his late fiancée, Phoebe Harville, probably because Fanny, they were like, why is everyone named Fanny? Everyone who's not a main character, or I guess in one book is a main character. So we got Phoebe Harville. And they go into the house, which seems to be an apartment of sorts. Like it's in a row of houses on the dock.
It's a terrace house.
It's a what?
Oh yeah, so this is a very particular, very popular kind of, I mean, this house in particular looks janky. Like that row of houses looks janky as fuck. But I imagine that it would be, there are literally 2 rooms. There's a reception room and a kitchen at the bottom. And there
all
are
the
2
bedrooms upstairs.
rooms. There are 2 bedrooms up at the top. And then you have the privy outside.
Oh, interesting. I found that this was a very effective scene to sort of gather how everyone feels about class. And it feels like, because this house is palpably less grand than anywhere else we've been.
It's fishy. It smells fishy. You can smell it.
Exactly. Like you can smell that it doesn't smell exactly like Upper Crosswood. And you can see the horror on Mary's face and the like trepidation on Charles's face. But you can see like Louisa and Henrietta don't care so much. And you can see Anne is kind of drawn in by the sailors.
And just the happiness and the joy, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like she would, you know how like, and then when she starts to laugh,
Yeah.
it's like she's kind of like nervous about laughing. It's because she probably had never heard her own laugh in a really long time. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt.
Devastating.
That's how I felt. She was like, oh,
Yeah.
what is the sound coming out from me? Yeah.
But it makes the classism seem old school because Mary and Charles look older than Louisa and Henrietta, who seem like these young girls who are kind of like the new generation, and kind of like the new generation's like, actually, the like wherever the Navy's hanging out, we're there.
Absolutely. And I love like how much warmth the house is filled with and how that's what Anne zeroes in on. It's like, oh, these people love each other. They're welcoming us to their home, which is small. And they're like, oh, and make yourself at home. Like that's something that carries over directly from the book where they're like, oh, like everyone can stay. We'll figure it out. And it's like, actually, you don't really have room for everyone to stay. There was one weird moment that I wanted to draw attention to, which was Wentworth starts by saying like, Charles, ladies, I must introduce you to Captain Harville, Captain Bennick. And it's like, he like caught himself just only introducing the man and then like pivoted. Is that what we think happened?
Maybe that's just an etiquette thing and shows that he's
Mhm.
really comfortable and he's only used to being around men, and then he realizes that, like, the polite form is to introduce ladies.
And I think also it kind of comes back to that bit where he was telling Charles, "Oh, you need to meet this guy. You're gonna love him." Blah blah blah. So I think like he's like, I just kind of got it, the way I saw it was like, oh, he's so excited, like his new friend. He can introduce his new friend to his old friend, and now he's like, oh, well, okay,
True.
yeah, yeah, shoot, okay, the ladies here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cute, like, their, like, camaraderie, and reminiscing on the old days at sea was very cute. Anne and Bennick hit it off, reciting poetry at each other. But at dinner, he continues reciting poetry, and it seems like maybe all he's done all day
Yeah.
is recite sad poems while staring wistfully off into the distance. And Anne suggests maybe he adds some prose into his daily reading
Yeah.
practice. And he says, "Well, you can't possibly understand the depths of my despair. Phoebe would have married me before I went to sea, but I wanted to wait for money." And Anne says, "You will rally again." And he says, "You have no conception of what I've lost." And she says, "I have." And then it cuts to Wentworth, which again,
This is a gripe Molly has with Persuasion.
it cuts to Wentworth, who is alive and sitting at the other end of the table. So really, she
You
doesn't know the
don't.
depths of his
Yeah.
despair. However, there is a parallel here that
Mm.
they have drawn attention to, which was he wanted to wait until after he came back so that they had money,
Mm.
and Anne wanted to wait to marry Wentworth until he had money, or rather, Lady Russell thought that Anne should wait until she had a suitor who had money because Wentworth had no money. So, like, ultimately, the reason why neither of them are married is the same,
It's money, basically. Yeah.
except that his is dead and hers is alive.
Mhm.
So, that's my gripe.
Fair.
The next morning, Anne and Henrietta are on a walk and they meet Wentworth and Louisa, who are out walking alone at sunrise. Interesting. And they all go back together to breakfast.
Really quick side note before we get into the rest of the plot. Like the way that Lime is shot here is beautiful. Lime looks gorgeous in
Oh,
all
yeah.
these scenes. I assume it's actually filmed in Lime.
I think so. I think we should go and find out.
I've never been to Lime. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it looks really nice. Like maybe this is because I'm used to Long Island beaches. But it is. I think it looks like kind of rough and wild and like that beautiful like fall beach where it's like not very crowded and it's a little
A
cold.
stony beach as well.
Exactly. You're like enjoying the sea in like its like most like majestic form. I quite enjoyed just like the scenery of Lyme while we were there.
Oh my god, when I'm this is not related, but when I was just in Scotland, as everyone knows, for 5 weeks, and I went to Portobello Beach, and it was winter, and um it wasn't super crowded, but there were just dogs everywhere
Oh.
running up and down the beach, living their absolute best lives. Like, everywhere you looked, there were at least 3 dogs running and playing fetch and like, dancing in the water, and it was truly, like, I think maybe what heaven looks like. So
Mhm.
I do love a winter beach, unrelated. Back to the Cobb, though. They're walking out of the Cobb, and they go up the stairs, and they bump into a handsome man. Anne notices him looking at her. Okay, fine, not super handsome. Becca's making a face. He has a bit of a pointy nose, and his eyes are a little bit close together, but, like, he is cute.
It's not the actor, it's the perm mullet I'm gonna take issue with. Like the way his hair is styled, it truly like is not for me.
So I have something for this for period drama fans because I know some of you who are watching this movie might recognize this actor as Siegfried from All Creatures Great and Small.
Oh.
He is the main vet. He has a beard though, and he's older.
Mm.
And he, I think, in All Creatures Great and Small, is famously very handsome. So handsome that they cast him in a British period drama today.
So they just did him dirty in this.
I'm looking at him. He's almost unrecognizable. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't think this actor is not handsome. It's the styling.
He is I love him, not necessarily in this. Maybe it's just his acting makes him so icky in this one, but he's also in around the same time. Yeah, 1992. He is in Howard's End. He plays Leonard Bast, and he is a little snack cake in that one.
Hmm.
His name is
Uh,
Samuel West,
Yeah, Samuel
right?
West.
Oh, he's cute.
Sorry, I probably should have mentioned, like, the name of this actor. So, yeah, so this is Samuel West. He plays Siegfried in All Things Great and Small, which is wildly popular here. I know it's very popular in America as well.
He also plays Anna's hot co-star in a period drama in Notting Hill.
Oh, the
It
Henry
has
Ah.
James period
yes, the
piece.
Henry James,
Yeah.
which I just watched on an airplane. I mean, not for the first time, for like the 70th time, but it was fresh in my brain. So when I saw that, I was like, that, anyway,
All
I
this to
think
be
he's cute.
said, handsome man, mullet, no thank you.
Sure,
But
sure.
definitely Molly and I both screamed uppy downy.
He uppy downied her.
I'm sorry, what?
The uppy downy is like when you like look up and down a woman, like you give her the
Mm.
whole uppy downy.
Ah,
And
and then she's like,
so he checks her
"Ooh."
out.
Uppy downy is not a term used by anyone but us. I should
Yes.
clarify. We coined it. So after the uppy downy, we cut to Anne looking at herself in the mirror and being like, "Am I hot?"
Mm.
Which is a nice moment of growth for her.
And we cannot stress this enough. Anne is hot.
She is
Hot.
very hot.
Canonically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So shortly after this, we find out that it is Mr. Elliot, and Anne reminds Mary that they have a bad relationship with him. And Wentworth says, "Quite lucky then that you didn't bump into him," and then sips his tea, which is interesting because they did bump into him, but Mary didn't bump into him. And then Anne also physically bumped into him. And I wondered if he saw that happen or something. It was just like a weird thing for him to say.
It was weird, and it made me wonder, is this the first time he's really, like, directly addressing her, like, looking her in the face and saying a full sentence
I think it might
to her?
be.
And that's, like, that's why she's so taken aback, and she's like, "Whoa."
You made eye
He
contact.
spoke at my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think Anne does sense like she's smart enough to sense a little like intrigue between the two of them, like,
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that he commented on it.
Yes. Which is nice for her. Later, they are walking on the cob, and Anne and Bennick are walking, and he is about to seemingly ask Anne out when the others come over and start to come down a set of stairs. Louisa is like, "Catch me, catch me." And she jumps down, and Wentworth catches her, but then she runs back up all the way to the top. And he's like, "Louisa, no, 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 don't jump." And of course, before he's anywhere near her,
She just launches.
It's like, what an idiot.
she
Yeah.
just jumps off a ledge, like no one down below her to catch her.
I love the slow-mo as well with this
Yeah.
absolutely vacant look on her face.
Yeah, she's just falling through midair.
4 paws up like a dog.
Yeah. It is quite a choice in terms of the cinematography, because we just see like
Silent slow motion.
the wall, her feet come into the frame, her body comes into the frame, her head comes into the frame, like, whoa.
It's not funny. She gets very injured.
She does, but they do it in a kind of funny way.
There's like zero blood, by the way.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a concussion.
So Mike and I do this thing, my fiance, where when we watch Marvel movies and someone gets in like a major accident and they're not like superhuman, we're like, dead. That person is dead.
Yeah.
And so when we were watching this, when Lisa hit the ground, Mike just went dead.
I was wondering why he did that.
It comes from like watching a lot of action movies and superhero movies where like somebody like drives off a cliff and like comes out of the car like and we're like dead.
Yeah, I think to be fair, it was only like 6 feet, maybe 7 feet up.
It's a long way to fall and hit your head on stone.
It does
Very
seem
big.
like based on the slow motion, maybe we can assume that she actually fell on her feet first, or at least some limbs.
Her feet first
Yeah.
crumpled and hit her head.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. I think it's believable that she is alive from this. Though I do think there would probably be some blood. or a broken leg or something, instead of just a concussion. But in any event, we can agree that she's being stupid as fuck
Yes.
because
Yep.
he's not standing anywhere near her when she jumps. And of course, calls for a surgeon. She goes straight into problem solving mode. And Wentworth is in a panic and he gets up and he starts running away. And she's like, no, Bennick should go. He knows where to go. And he's like, oh, yes, of course.
Where are you
She's
running?
like, come back here. Carry this girl to the Harvilles' house. And so they carry her to the Harvilles, and it's all very scary. And Anne walks in on Wentworth saying, Anne should stay. No one's so competent as Anne. Capable.
No
Thank
one's
you.
so capable as Anne.
Oh,
Ah.
yeah, it's hot. And he looks at her and they make eye contact, and it's like all of the trust in his face. But of course, Mary is like, no, Anne's not her sister. I'm her sister. I should stay.
Anne has nothing to Louisa.
So, of course, we end up with Anne and Wentworth in a carriage with a sleeping Henrietta in between them. And he says, if only I had, and Anne goes, yes, which I think is kind of great because it's implying that she also agrees that this is his fault. And it cuts him right off. And then he says, Anne, I regret that, and then trails off. She kind of takes Henrietta's head and is like, I don't know what he's about to say. And then he just goes, damned foolish, damned foolish. And you have to wonder, what does he regret?
Mhm.
He regrets so much.
Mhm.
And I think that she knows that, but she's not willing to really take in what he's going to say. And of course, then we cut to the scream to end all screams that really
Oh my
was a
god.
jump scare for
Wait.
everyone.
I need to show you this. I have in my notes app my favorite line reads, and what I don't know if you can see it, but it just says, yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like a silent moment. And then all of a sudden, Mrs. Musgrove screaming bloody murder, sobbing. We're like, everyone who was lulled into kind of a state of complacency while watching the film jumped out of their seats, and it's chaos at the Musgrove house. Anne stands watching Wentworth riding back in the rain out of the window, and then she stands in the living room all night, just a montage of her moving from place to place in the living room as it gets lighter outside. And in the morning, Charles comes home to tell Mama that Louisa is conscious and will live. But right before she comes in, Anne is plunking out a little song on the piano. And I think, and I'm not sure because I couldn't rewind without replaying the ads on YouTube, but she's plunking out a song that I think might be the same song that Wentworth was plunking out when he was
Yes.
sitting at the
Yeah,
piano.
it sounded the
It
same.
is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Good one.
Good call, Molly.
Thank you. Toss. So then it's time, at long last, for Anne to go to Bath. There are, in the Elliot household at Bath, white floors, gold furniture. Once again, Elizabeth lying down on a chaise, eating grapes like she owns the place, which she doesn't because they're definitely renting.
The energy of this is like perfect vibe shift.
It's so oppressive.
Mm-hmm. And the white everything, like no rugs or like tapestries, just it's like so sterile, and it really makes it feel like not a place where people live. It's not a home
It's not even shabby chic white.
for anyone.
Mhm.
Like they didn't even sand down the floors a little bit after they painted it.
No.
No, Liberace thought it was a bit much.
Yeah. At dinner, Sir Walter is talking about how ugly all the men in Bath are. And Elizabeth says, well, not Mr. Elliot. And Anne is like, Mr. Elliot? I thought we didn't like him. She was like very confused. And they were like, no, you have to see him now. He's like, he's such a gentleman. And she's like, well, I saw him in Lyme. And one of my favorite moments is Elizabeth just being like, well, maybe you saw him in Lyme. And Anne is like, no, I did. I saw him in Lyme. She's like, it's
Just
iconic.
like explosions of anger.
Mhm.
They're so unnecessary.
Yeah, but she has anger issues we've discussed.
Really, really frightening.
Anne can't have anything that she has or that she wants. She wants to always have the upper hand.
It is interesting though, because I do think they kind of downplay Elizabeth's feeling that she is owed Mr. Elliot in this adaptation.
Yeah, they don't they
Mm.
have a thing, don't they, in the book? There is more of a she feels that she has a claim on him.
Yeah, they thought they were gonna get engaged, and then like, part of the reason they don't get along is that he, like, snubbed her for another woman who had more money.
Oh, right. Oh, I'd completely forgotten
Oh.
about
Oh,
this.
yeah.
That was what originally led to the falling out
And
between Mr. Elliot
s
and
yeah, and so for all of Elizabeth's faults, like, it's not crazy for her to think, like, when he comes back and is, like, very apologetic and is a widow, he's, like, second guessing himself on that front.
like ready to pick back up with her.
Exactly. So, like, she is a bit delulu, but not it's not psycho. She, like, there is some history there between the two of them, and I'm granted, it's written in a way in Austen that, like, it could have been delulu back then, but it is an established thing in the Elliot family that Elizabeth was snubbed by Mr. Elliot when they were younger, and then later he came back, and so, like, even at the beginning of, like, her, like, meetings with him, Anne is like, "Oh, like, maybe he'll marry Elizabeth before he realizes how bad her personality is, fingers crossed."
I remember that. So when Mr. Elliot enters the room, he clocks Anne and he's like, "Oh, we've met before." He up and
Mhm.
down her once again.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he asks her about the Louisa situation and he's like, "It must have been so distressing for you." And she was like, "It was." It's the first time anyone's asked her about her time in Lyme. And then when Anne tells Lady Russell about him, we cut to them in the assembly rooms, and she's telling Lady Russell, and Lady Russell's like, "Oh, I thought you guys weren't on speaking terms because of his imprudent marriage," which is the only implication of what you were just talking about, Becca. And Anne's like, "Well, he's a widower now and eager to reconcile."
And it's funny that she says imprudent marriage because, like, in the books, it's not exactly an imprudent marriage. She's extraordinarily wealthy, and this is a foreshadow to things to come later, but in the book, like, he marries because she's a bottomless pit of money. And even though Elizabeth has a higher title and higher status in society, he was like, "All right, who cares about that money?" And you don't know, like, exactly why at this point in the book he marries this girl, but you know that, like, she was, like, stupid wealthy, so it's not, like, the craziest match, but imprudent marriage tells you something about where they're going with the Mr. Elliot plotline.
Yes. Yes. So Anne suggests that Elliot is interested in Elizabeth again. Meanwhile, Lady Russell is chugging the water, which we've discussed already.
The fart water.
And the fart water. And after Anne suggests this about Elizabeth, Lady Russell lovingly strokes Anne's face whilst gazing into her eyes in, like, perhaps maybe the only slightly gay moment in this book or in this movie, but it's imbued with a yeah, sure, he likes Elizabeth and not you, your beautiful face, and Elizabeth sucks kind of way. Then the Crofts enter, and Anne lights up when she goes over to them, and it's
Yeah.
so cute, and we love the Crofts. We cannot emphasize that enough. Later, Anne overhears Mrs. Clay talking to her father, saying, now that Anne is back, she should go home. And Elizabeth cuts in. She's like, no, 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 she's nothing compared to you. And in this moment, Sir Walter has like his hand on maybe Mrs. Clay's waist. Like his hand is up behind her, and it's either on her waist or her butt. Probably her waist because his daughter is right there. But it's very much like, no, stay here with me overtly.
I mean, again, it's a show not tell on the discussion of, like, Miss Clay's intentions with uh, Sir Walter and how successful they have been or unsuccessful at this point.
Yes.
Which, like, you're led to believe by this point they're not
No,
successful.
they seem successful. When Anne comes in, they ask her to come to see the Dalrymples with her, and she says, "If you wish." And Elizabeth explodes. Viscountess! She is a viscountess!
Oh my god, Elizabeth stresses me out. Like her anger. I'm just like, chill.
Yeah, everything makes her mad.
Not marzipan, though.
Oh, she does love marzipan.
So we meet the Viscountess, the Honorable Viscountess Lady.
Dalrymple.
The Honorable Viscountess Lady Dalrymple and Baby Dalrymple.
Yes, thank you. Who doesn't say anything. The scene is just them all introducing themselves to
No
her.
notes. She looks like a cake.
She does.
I love this. I love, again, with the historical styling, I love that they have a very now kind of like out of fashion painted face that would have been really popular just like 30 years prior to this.
Mhm.
Where it's all white and you feel like like their faces are all pocked and gnarly underneath there, just like rouged them. They have like kind of unsettling dark lipstick to cap it all off,
Mhm.
and just so much floofy. Even though we're in like the 1810s, what they're wearing seems outdated and like grandma-ish.
Yeah, she does seem grandma-ish. Later, Anne and Elliot are talking about whether or not the Dalrymples are good company, and Anne is saying that they're not because they're kind of vapid and don't have a lot to offer, and Mr. Elliot is saying that you can't expect that much. Like, they have good standing in society, and that's all you really need for good company, not the best
Best
company.
company. Yeah.
I will say one like modest critique I have with this is that this scene is a little too good. Like,
What do you mean?
I mean, like clearly the actor playing Mr. Elliot's very good. He does perfectly walk the line between smarmy and kind of appealing in this portion. But Anne is too lively here for my taste because, and it's not that bad that she's lively. It's fun. And I kind of like that there's snap, crackle, and pop between these two. But she spends so much of the rest of the movie so pained and morose that like it is notable that she's kind of giggling with this guy. It feels like, oh, she's like having a good time with him and she's been having a really bad time. And
Yeah.
it does just kind of famously on our podcast when we were reading the book, Molly was drawn in by Mr. Elliot.
Oh, were you? Were
Ooh.
you like,
Yes, she
here, now
was.
this is a breath of fresh air?
And I think that like you need a little like I that's why I say like we need like something to like latch onto with Wentworth that feels joyful because otherwise it feels like Wentworth is this like pain in her life, like this everlasting pain, whereas this guy's making her laugh and she's having fun with him. And so like for me, it's just like it's a little too good. Like it's one of the for me, Amanda Root's like hottest moments in the film, quote unquote. She looks so attractive when she's giggling and like sassing him about company. So that's a one of the criticisms I have, a gripe, if you will, with the film.
No, it makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. You need that though for the tension of the film because you have to be wondering, is she actually
Mhm.
going to be swayed by this guy? Should I be swayed by this guy? Do I want this for her? Is this actually what's better for her than Wentworth?
Absolutely. My only thing is like I want more counterweight to that with Wentworth.
Sure.
Like there is a lot of misery brought with Wentworth, but like that's why I'm like drawn to the idea of having like the time they're in love or like more moments of like remembering what it felt like when they were together because instead we get a lot of like moments of like pain for the two of them. And it would be good to have like some joy to like be like, okay, yeah, this joy with Elliot's good, but what she's got with Wentworth, like that is true happiness, you know? And right now, it like the way the movie goes is like it's just showing you how painful it is for her to remember what she's lost with him. So that's like it's a critique I have, but I do agree with you that like there does need to be some stakes to the relationship with Mr. Elliot. I just wish there were an equivalent like I don't need to see her flirt with Wentworth, but I do wish there was more joy to latch onto in the relationship there.
See, but this works for me. Like my urine is so strong that if you're just like if you're speaking a sentence into my eyes like every 2 weeks, I'm just like I can work with this.
Oh, yes, yes. I that is enough to sustain a crush often.
Absolutely. So the next day, Anne is telling her family that she's going to see her friend Mrs. Smith instead of visiting the Dalrymples with them, and her father is pissed so much so that he like goes off about her class, and Mrs. Clay gets up and walks away from the whole conversation.
Run, just like little Mrs. Clay running like
It's like,
softly
oh, sorry,
away.
I'm just gonna remove myself from
I
this.
love these moments in Austin. They're like always my favorite because it just shows how like stupid the class systems are.
It's very dumb.
Because like he's screaming that she's ruining their lives by going to visit a Mrs. Smith when Mrs. Clay is right there and receiving so much
Mm-hmm.
favor from their family.
Right. And we have to talk about the suit that he's wearing during this scene.
Oh,
It's just
Curtains.
it's
absolutely,
so
like,
good.
aspirational for me. I have fantasies about, like, so I've left academia now, but I used to fantasize about this when I thought that I would be, giving lectures and things. And now I look forward to someday maybe being in some kind of office professional environment. And this is like my lesbian aesthetic that I aspire to, just like some kind of, oh, it doesn't have to be floral, but just like a
Like
jacquard
like
or a
kind of like
print.
brocade,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little giving, like the Sound of Music scene with the drapes.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, maybe he did have them made from drapes. You don't know.
I mean, they're low on cash, so maybe that's how he's
Yeah,
like.
exactly. They're just like, just grab anything. Yeah.
Well, on the note of his gorgeous suit, listeners, we really thought we were going to be able to do this in 2 episodes, but unfortunately,
You're getting a three-parter.
you're getting a 3-parter. And you know what? I should say fortunately, because this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much, Alice and Kim, for joining us for not 2, but 3 episodes of this podcast.
Do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
You can email us at fetchsmellingsalts@gmail.com if you want to recommend a period drama that you think we should cover. Also, we're on Instagram at fetchsmellingsalts. You can find my podcast, Austin After Dark, at Austin After Dark, also on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this coverage. Next time, we'll be finishing up Persuasion 1995, starring our buddies Amanda Root and Kieran Hines. So until next time, stay proper.
And enjoy it, for there will be no more ice till the winter.
Perfect.
Incredible. Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice to see how you can support us, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.